Your Majesty. Your Majesties, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, a very warm welcome to this European Development Days conference. The next 48 hours will bring together leaders, practitioners, policymakers, and decision makers. And together you will share analysis, you will shape best practices, and you will also map the priorities for the future. COVID-19 has harshly exposed the impact of today's incomplete, incompatible, or disconnected global infrastructure. As we all know, the lack of digital connections in many places, the disruption to our supply chains, and the scarcity of medical goods have all had a tremendous impact, both human and economic. We may not be able to solve all the world's problems in the coming 2 days, but we're certainly going to give it a try, and we're going to start together working on solving quite a few of those problems. As you know, the aim of the Global Gateway Strategy is to boost smart, clean and secure links in the digital, energy and transport sector. The strategy, the Global Gateway, also aims to strengthen health, education and research systems across the world. In partnership with the Global Gateway, the EU aims to support major investments that will increase global connections and address the monumental problems we are all facing. We have a mountain to climb. We have a mountain ahead of us, and a very high one. But according to G20 estimates, the global investment infrastructure deficit will hit 13 trillion euros by 2040. That is in less than 20 years. And even more money will be needed to stay on track to limit the climate change disaster that is looming. It is, of course, well known that transport systems are key contributors to this. And the Global Gateway also plans to promote worldwide infrastructure investments that create sustainable, smart, resilient, inclusive and safe transport networks, an absolutely essential part of our infrastructures. And that means rail, road, ports, airports, or even border crossings in many places. So it is indeed quite a challenge, quite a mountain we have ahead of us. And it's one of many. We do have exciting times ahead, not least in this very place, in this very hall, in this very studio, where many of you, heads of states and governments or head of international organizations, have joined us to deliver keynote speeches that will outline your vision for the Global Gateway in both international and domestic contexts. Our world is growing, our world is moving. The conference today and tomorrow will build on the achievements of the 2018 EU-Asia Connectivity Strategy. For example, the recent initiatives that involve Japan, India, the Western Balkans, but it will also build on other initiatives that involve Africa, Central Asia and America. So do stand by for some very powerful keynotes this morning, some very powerful introductory speeches, but also for some very intensive debates which are going to take place in the various studios throughout the next couple of days. Ladies and gentlemen, we can now open officially the European Development Days. I understand we have a connection to President von der Leyen. Now, unfortunately, due to her very busy agenda, she could not join us in person this morning. But President von der Leyen, are you with us? Hello?
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Thank you very much.
Good morning, President von der Leyen. Good morning.
Good morning.
And welcome.
Good morning.
We're delighted to have you with us. We understand that you have a very busy agenda, and we're sorry you could not join us here in the hall. But please, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Your Majesties, Excellencies, distinguished guests, and ladies and gentlemen. Indeed, it is a great pleasure to welcome you to the now 15th edition of the European Development Days. This is the place where Europe meets the global development community and partners from all corners of the world. And this year we gather in a delicate moment. The world has been shocked and shaken by Russia's aggression on Ukraine. But while the global media's attention, rightly so, was focusing mostly on the war, something else happened below the radar. On the fourth day of Russia's aggression, the leading authority on climate change, the IPCC, issued a stark warning to the global community. They demonstrated that our climate is changing faster than our capacity to adapt to it. So we must speed up the investments to cut emissions or face dramatic consequences. The window of opportunity for action is still open. But the global investment gap is still not closing. Global infrastructure investment collapsed in 2020 because of the pandemic, and it took us almost 2 years before it went back to pre-pandemic levels. But then Russia attacked Ukraine, rocking the global economy once again. And you know it, energy prices have skyrocketed. Vulnerable countries across the globe are on the brink of a massive food crisis. And at a time when the global economy is longing for stability to recover and transform, investors are facing growing uncertainty. The world needs a positive investment impulse, and it needs it now. And we're talking about investment in clean energy, in roads and bridges that are flood-proof, or buildings that can withstand extreme heat waves, but also investment to prepare health systems, for example, for the pandemics of the future, or to adapt farming to drier conditions. Investments to equip our workers with skills that match the jobs of tomorrow. Or, for example, investment in digital infrastructure, because we all know the fuel of the new economy is data. So the fate of future generations depends more than ever before on the quality and quantity of our infrastructure investment today. And this is where our European strategy, Global Gateway, comes into play. Global Gateway, as you know, is Europe's offer to the world that needs massive investment. It aims at mobilizing 300 billion euros by 2027, 150 billion euros of them in Africa. So it has the size to make a difference. And just as importantly, it lays out a new approach to big infrastructure projects. You know very well that for many countries around the world, investments options are not only limited, but they all come with a lot of small print and a very high price sometimes. Sometimes it's the environment that pays the price. Sometimes it's workers who are stripped of their rights. And sometimes it's national sovereignty that is compromised. Well, no country should be faced with such a situation in which the only option to finance its essential infrastructure is to sell out its future. Global Gateway is about giving countries a choice, and a better choice. Global Gateway's investments will be sustainable, both for the environment and for our partners' finances. our investments will always put people first. And for this, we will always co-design projects with our partners. They have to own the project. So we make sure to deliver lasting benefits for local communities. And Europe has a clear strategic interest in this. We have an interest in working together for our common planet. It's in our common interest. We have an interest in making our neighbors and partners more resilient to all sorts of shocks. We have an interest in replacing unsustainable dependencies with more balanced interdependencies. And since we launched Global Gateway just over 6 months ago, the demand for transparent and value-based investment program has only grown stronger. Now, these European Development Days will showcase the road we have traveled so far. But today I would like to focus first and foremost on the direction of our travel. 3 goals that we can achieve together thanks to Global Gateway and that are key to our sustainable development are in the focus. The first one is resilience. The second, and it's no ranking, it's all at the same level, is sustainability. And the third is cooperation with neighbors and with like-minded partners. So let me start with resilience. The last few months have shed a light on some of the great imbalances of the global economy. Take, for example, vaccines. In pandemic times, Europe has been the pharmacy of the world. For every dose of vaccine distributed inside Europe, 1 dose was shipped abroad. We are by far the world's largest exporter of vaccines. We stayed open when others decided to keep their production for themselves. Yet, this situation is not sustainable. A continent like Africa imports 99% of the vaccines it needs, 99%. So we agree with the African Union that this must change. And here Global Gateway comes into play. In the coming months, we're building together with our African partners 2 factories in Rwanda and Senegal to manufacture mRNA vaccines. The technology is there. So starting next year, the vaccines will be sold at non-for-profit prices to African countries. And this will be made in Africa, for Africa, with world-class technology. Similar work is also ongoing with Ghana and South Africa. So the model we have developed with our partners is incredibly promising, not only for Africa. So right here at the European Development Days, we will launch a similar initiative with Latin America and the Caribbean. This continent has also an immense potential with highly skilled researchers and a growing manufacturing capacity. Yet, here also the figures, it still imports 10 times more pharmaceutical products than it exports. With Global Gateway, we can make our partners stronger and more resilient because your strength is our strength too. Another good example is food security. Only 50 years ago, Africa produced all the food it needed. Then conflict and climate change have made the continent heavily dependent on food imports. And today, a food crisis looms, triggered by Russia's deliberate attack on Ukraine's food exports. Russian troops are blockading ships full of wheat, crops, and cooking oil in Ukrainian ports. Russia is deliberately bombarding grain warehouses in Ukraine, and in some cases they are even stealing Ukrainian wheat. This is the reason for the current food crisis. And to put the record very straight, our sanctions do not touch basic food commodities and fertilizers. And they are carefully designed not to affect food trade between Russia and third countries. So right now, we are working hard together with Ukraine to get more grain out of Ukraine to global markets and to help the most vulnerable countries face the emergency. But we must also step up every continent's own production capacity and resilience. That's the principle. This was at the heart of my visit to Egypt just a few days ago, and we know how to do it. There's a wonderful example. The Great Green Wall has already retaken millions of hectares of land from the desert, boosting food production from Senegal and Niger to Ethiopia. Now, roughly 15% of the project has been completed, and Global Gateway will put another brick in the Great Green Wall as a bulwark against food insecurity and climate change. Just like we are, for example, doing in Zambia to strengthen its agricultural sector. And beyond this, we have just proposed to mobilize an additional 600 million euros to strengthen local production in vulnerable countries, on top of the existing package you all know of 3 billion euros for global food security. So as with vaccines, the mid and long-term solution is local production and local resilience. And this leads me to the second goal of Global Gateway, that is sustainability. In a world where resources are limited and climate change action urgent, all infrastructure investments must be future-proof. You know as well as me that 600 million Africans currently don't have access to electricity and clean energy. That's more than the EU's entire population. So clean energy from renewables is the only option that can both turn the lights on and preserve Africa's unique nature. And it's homegrown. You have all the resources. Africa has an abundance of wind and sun. What is needed is investment. And with Global Gateway, we aim to provide access to electricity from renewable sources to 100 million people by 2030. And with clean hydrogen, Africa can both power its rising industry and sell even clean energy to other continents. We are already working intensively with Namibia on this, and this is a true win-win situation. It is good for all our economies, and it is good for our planet. And finally, Global Gateway is about cooperation with neighbors and like-minded partners. We Europeans have learned that economic integration is the best antidote against war. But in many parts of the world, it is easier to trade with faraway economic giants than with the country next door. So Global Gateway will invest in strategic transport corridors with a focus on clean modes of transport, for instance, to link landlocked areas with seaports. We are already at work with our partners to identify and develop these corridors, for instance, in the Western Balkans, or for example, in Africa and in Central Asia. And this will then create new trade opportunities, but also better neighborly relations. Likewise, Global Gateway is open for cooperation with any country that shares our goals, like our friends, for example, in the United States, in Japan and India. With Global Gateway, we are showing the power of a value-driven investment agenda. Democracies are putting citizens and local communities and the future of our planet at the core of our action. And during the pandemic, we have seen that others promised a lot, but in the end, it were the democracies who delivered. So let us work for sustainable mutual benefit. This is the philosophy of Global Gateway. It can help to bridge across the world's investment gap, but it is much, much more. It is an opportunity to end unhealthy dependencies and to invest in partnerships of equals instead. Global Gateway is the future of our development cooperation. And I'm grateful to all of you who have joined us today to shape this future together. I will be very keen to learn about the progress of concrete projects, and I thank you and welcome you to the European Development Days. Many thanks for having me.
Thank you very much, President von der Leyen, for indeed helping us set the scene of this global gateway. Now, ladies and gentlemen, to continue our opening ceremony, it is my great honor to welcome Her Majesty the Queen of the Belgians and UN SDG advocate. Your Majesty, please.
Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, it is a great pleasure to be able to participate in person again in this multi-partner international conversation under the auspices of the European Development Days. Speaking as an advocate for the UN Sustainable Development Goals, my main task today is to remind all stakeholders of the importance of this global agenda. Unanimously adopted by the international community in 2015, its purpose is to make the world more equitable and more sustainable for all by 2030. Unfortunately, these priorities have been hijacked by two major crises: the COVID pandemic and the resurgence of war in Europe. The consequences in terms of human suffering for the economy worldwide and for the food security of many countries are dramatic. These emergency situations have compelled decision makers to focus mainly on managing the short term. Human and financial resources have been diverted to respond to immediate needs. However, this should not become the new normal. Let us not forget that, beyond statistics on goals and targets, the SDGs outline a shared vision and provide a roadmap for the future we want to achieve. We must consider how, even in times of emergency, decision makers, organizations, and individuals can re-establish and continue to expand their capacity, including their capacity to plan for a more distant future. They must be able to implement those plans as well, devising local, national, and international policies and cooperation systems to reach the objectives that the international community has set for itself, so that the vision can be made reality. Developing and prioritizing policies and actions to combat climate change, poverty, gender inequality, pollution, and the depletion of world resources is a first step. The European Green Deal is a bold project and illustrates that it can be done. Implementation will often require leaving the beaten path, thinking and acting differently, changing mindsets, collectively shaping new priorities and new forms of collaboration that produce win-win results on the basis of shared values. We know that innovative solutions can come from the entire world, from researchers, business, ordinary citizens, and young people. They might address local problems and use local resources, but they can still inspire others, even in faraway settings and different environments. The impressive set of connections proposed by the Global Gateway Strategy will hopefully become a network of two-way streets and avenues, which will help ideas and experiences flow in many directions and enrich one another. Excellences, Mesdames et Messieurs, la dignité de chaque personne et son droit de vivre à l'abri de la peur et du besoin sont aussi au cœur des objectifs de développement durable et de l'agenda 2030 des Nations Unies. Sans cela, la pauvreté, les inégalités, les discriminations, les tensions au sein des sociétés, les violences et les conflits continueront à mettre sans cesse en danger les progrès accomplis. À Bukavu, en République démocratique du Congo, le docteur Mukwege, prix Nobel de la paix, accueille, soigne et aide à se reconstruire des femmes et des filles, parfois très jeunes, victimes des violences sexuelles les plus atroces. Il y a quelques jours, j'ai rencontré ces femmes à la fois fragiles et fortes, et j'ai écouté leur histoire, souvent insoutenable. Ce sont des femmes d'exception qui souhaitent malgré tout aller de l'avant. Mais ces souffrances qui se répètent depuis plusieurs générations doivent s'arrêter. J'ai promis à ces femmes de faire entendre leur voix. C'est ce que je fais aujourd'hui auprès de vous. J'espère de tout cœur qu'elle sera entendue. Je vous remercie.
Merci, Majesté. Thank you very much, Your Majesty. Ladies and gentlemen, please now welcome on stage with us His Majesty King Letsie III, King of Lesotho.
Your Majesty, Queen of the Belgians, Your Excellencies, Heads of State and Government here present, the President of the European Council, His Excellency Mr. Charles Michel, the President of the European Commission, Her Excellency Ms. Ursula von der Leyen, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it is indeed a great pleasure and honor to address you today at this opening ceremony of the 15th edition of the European Development Days. I am grateful for the gracious invitation that has been extended to the Kingdom of Lesotho to take part in this important forum, which brings together a variety of participants to share knowledge, experiences, and ideas that can assist our efforts of finding solutions to the world's most critical challenges. The theme of this year reads, Global Gateway, Building Sustainable Partnerships for a Connected World. I believe that this theme is highly relevant and appropriate in view of the political, economic, and social challenges we have had to grapple with in recent years. The COVID-19 pandemic has laid bare the existing inequalities within our countries and the inequalities between the countries of the North and those of the South. And it has forced us to recognize that stronger partnerships, cooperation and collaboration are essential elements in dealing with and confronting global crises now and in the future. The Kingdom of Lesotho has enjoyed and benefited from a strong partnership with the EU spanning a period of almost 50 years. This partnership has been characterized by cooperation in many areas that we regard as critical pillars for our economic advancement and political stability. The EU has provided valuable assistance and support to our efforts of strengthening democratic institutions and entrenching democratic culture. Recently, the EU has provided much-needed support to our judiciary in dealing with sensitive, high-profile cases that are now before the courts of law. I cannot fail to mention the significant contribution that the EU has made towards our national reforms process. This important and historical national exercise, encompassing constitutional, parliamentary, judiciary, security, public service, media and economic reforms, is expected to lay solid foundations for improved governance, political stability, greater national cohesion, and enduring peace. In a few months, the Kingdom will hold a general election, and once again, we are looking forward to hosting the EU Observer Mission, which will observe and ensure that this important democratic exercise will meet all the required standards and principles of a free and fair election. Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I am certain that you will agree with me that climate change poses an existential threat to our world and to humanity at large. It is a known fact that climate change threatens people and countries in all corners of the world with food and water scarcity, increased flooding, extreme heat, severe droughts, increased levels of disease, and devastating economic loss. The government and people of Lesotho would therefore like to applaud and commend the European Union for conceiving this noble gateway strategy, this noble global gateway strategy that aims to, among many other things, develop sustainable responses and solutions to the problem of climate change. In recent years, the EU has proved to be one of Lesotho's strongest partners in our fight to mitigate the harshest effects of climate change. It has provided and continues to provide the government of Lesotho with technical support and assistance to institute appropriate policies that will help to reverse environmental degradation and enable a more efficient adaptation to climate change. Having recognized that one of our country's biggest assets is water, and that this valuable asset could be a key determinant to the development and growth of a green and resilient economy, the EU is also supporting the government and people of Lesotho in our efforts to increase availability of clean and affordable water and sanitation systems, and is supporting initiatives that increase our capacity and ability to manage our water resource in an integrated and sustainable manner, so that this valuable asset can yield greater benefits for both people and nature. Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, it is my sincerest hope that the discussions, deliberations, and exchanges that will take place during the course of this forum will bring us closer to forging genuinely sustainable partnerships. Today's pressing and sometimes daunting challenges, such as climate change, conflicts, and pandemics, can only be overcome if we all act in a spirit of collaboration and cooperation within a connected global community. Let me conclude my remarks by wishing this 15th edition of European Development Days much success. And may we all leave here inspired to build new and strong partnerships for inclusive prosperity and enduring peace. I thank you all for your attention.
Thank you very much, Your Majesty. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to invite to join me here on stage Mr. Charles Michel, President of the European Council.
Altesse royale, Majesté, Mesdames et Messieurs les chefs d'État et de gouvernement, Excellences, Mesdames et Messieurs les ministres, Mesdames et Messieurs les membres de la Commission européenne, très chers amis, c'est pour moi un plaisir particulier d'être avec vous en personne pour ces journées du développement qui sont l'occasion de se rassembler pour réfléchir ensemble à la manière d'engager des coopérations utiles pour nous faire progresser sur le chemin de la stabilité, de la sécurité et de la prospérité. Et cette réunion en personne intervient 2 ans après le point de départ de cette crise du Covid, cette crise qui a frappé le monde, cette crise qui nous a toutes et tous ébranlés, bousculés, bouleversés, cette crise qui a montré les faiblesses et les failles de la solidarité internationale, et cette crise qui a aussi montré une forme de résilience et de capacité pour l'humanité à développer des vaccins, par exemple, en moins de 1 an, là où habituellement 5 à 10 ans étaient nécessaires, et qui a montré aussi, pour l'Union européenne, la place centrale qu'elle doit occuper en termes de solidarité et d'engagement vers le reste du monde. Certes, tout n'a pas été parfait, et cette crise du Covid doit tous nous amener à être modestes et humbles, mais cette crise a montré notre volonté sans faille d'exporter la moitié des doses de vaccins produites en Europe tout au long de la crise. Cette crise a montré aussi, et la présidente de la Commission l'a évoqué, cet engagement avec un certain nombre de pays, spécialement sur le continent africain, pour développer des capacités de vaccins en Afrique, des productions pour faire face à cette demande sur le continent africain. Nous avons le même souhait de développer de tels partenariats avec d'autres pays et d'autres régions dans le monde. Cette réunion intervient au moment où le sang coule une fois encore sur le continent européen. Cette réunion intervient au moment où un pays, et ce n'est pas un détail, membre permanent du Conseil de sécurité des Nations Unies, a décidé de déclencher une guerre d'un autre siècle, une guerre injustifiable, une guerre non provoquée, en flagrante violation avec le droit international. Et non, ça n'est pas une opération militaire spéciale. Au moment où nous sommes ensemble rassemblés ici à Bruxelles, le peuple ukrainien souffre sous les bombes et sous les balles. Des meurtres sont commis. Les violences sexuelles sont utilisées comme crimes de guerre contre des femmes, contre des filles, contre des enfants. Et nous ne pouvons pas rester les bras ballants. Et c'est le sens du soutien de l'Union européenne pour l'Ukraine, soutien politique, soutien humanitaire, soutien militaire également, Et c'est le sens des sanctions décidées pour tenter d'enrayer le financement de la machine de guerre du Kremlin. Et je veux être extrêmement clair parce que cette guerre déclenchée par le Kremlin est aussi l'occasion pour certains de développer des fausses informations, de développer de la propagande. Les sanctions de l'Union européenne et de nos alliés sont strictement ciblées et ne visent en aucun cas les produits alimentaires ou les engrais. Au contraire, c'est l'Union européenne qui est totalement mobilisée depuis le premier jour pour tenter de contribuer avec les partenaires à résoudre le risque grave de crise de la sécurité alimentaire qui est en train de se produire et pourrait se produire à défaut d'actions extrêmement volontaires sur ce sujet. De quelle manière? D'une part, l'Union européenne travaille pour développer des routes alternatives afin de permettre que les produits agricoles, les grains bloqués en Ukraine puissent sortir d'Ukraine. J'étais personnellement il y a quelques semaines dans le port d'Odessa et j'ai pu voir de mes yeux dans les bateaux, dans les silos, les 22 millions de tonnes de blé ukrainien qui sont censés aller vers les pays du nord de l'Afrique, vers l'Afrique de l'Ouest également, bloqués, pas bloqués par des sanctions européennes, mais bloqués par les navires de guerre qui empêchent le transport maritime dans la mer Noire, bloqués parce que la Russie a décidé au travers d'un AFTEX que cette mer Noire était une zone de guerre, bloqués aussi parce que les champs de blé en Ukraine sont devenus des champs de bataille, parce qu'il y a cette décision du Kremlin d'enclencher cette guerre contre l'Ukraine. Mobilisés aussi nous le sommes pour soutenir avec force l'engagement du secrétaire général Guterres et des Nations Unies, pour tenter de trouver un accord afin de permettre de débloquer des corridors maritimes sécurisés au travers de la mer Noire et de faire en sorte que l'on puisse relever ensemble ce défi. Mobilisés, nous le sommes également, l'Union européenne, avec cette initiative française que nous portons pour soutenir avec l'Union africaine et avec nos partenaires cette nécessité de s'engager pour soutenir les efforts de production en Afrique, pour adapter les mesures commerciales qui devraient l'être, afin de faciliter l'accès non seulement aux produits agricoles, mais également aux engrais. Mobilisés, nous le sommes aussi avec le G7. Nous serons réunis en Allemagne dans quelques jours, la semaine prochaine, et l'Union assumera toute sa part pour faire en sorte que nous prenions au sérieux cette crise sévère qui est d'ores et déjà présente dans un certain nombre de pays, mais qui nous menace collectivement pour les prochains mois et peut-être même pour les prochaines années. Enfin, je souhaiterais profiter de ce moment avec vous brièvement, parce que je sais que la liste d'orateurs est une liste longue, pour partager trois messages simples avec solennité au nom de l'Union européenne. Le premier message, l'Union européenne, par son ADN, projet politique atypique, au lendemain de 2 guerres mondiales qui ont fait couler le sang sur le continent européen, au lendemain de ce siècle qui a été marqué par cette tragédie, il y a eu cette vision, cette lumière de leaders politiques qui ont eu le courage, ce sont les pères fondateurs de l'Europe, de se rassembler autour d'une même table, ceux-là même qui représentaient les nations qui s'étaient tant déchirées, qui s'étaient tant brutalisées au siècle passé, se rassembler autour d'une même table pour construire un projet de paix, de prospérité et de stabilité. Paix, prospérité et stabilité, l'un va avec l'autre. Et c'est pour ça que mon premier message est le suivant. L'Europe sera toujours le partenaire pour le développement, le partenaire pour le progrès, le partenaire pour la paix et pour la stabilité. Ce n'est donc pas un hasard si 46% de l'aide au développement mondial est portée au départ de l'Union européenne, près de 70 milliards mobilisés chaque année pour financer plus de paix, plus de prospérité et plus de développement. Mon deuxième message, à l'heure où le sang coule sur le sol ukrainien, ne commettons pas l'erreur collective d'être sourds ou d'être aveugles. Il y a dans le monde d'autres tragédies en ce moment même. Il y a dans le monde d'autres crises. Je pense aux femmes et aux filles en Afghanistan qui ont du mal aujourd'hui à suivre des cours et à fréquenter les écoles. Je pense aussi aux drames humanitaires liés par les conséquences de la situation en Afghanistan. Je pense aussi à la situation dans la Corne de l'Afrique et aux drames qui se passent avec un certain nombre d'hommes et de femmes qui sont des victimes très directes de ce déchaînement de haine et parfois même de haine à dimension ethnique. Je pense aussi à nos amis dans l'Afrique de l'Ouest, dans le Sahel, qui sont mobilisés depuis tant d'années pour combattre le terrorisme qui menace la dignité des populations dans le Sahel. Et je pense à tant d'autres endroits dans le monde, sur tous les continents, où la folie des hommes, où l'instabilité ou l'insécurité amènent de la misère, amènent de la tristesse et amènent de la peine. L'Union européenne n'oublie pas, nous avons les yeux ouverts, nous avons les oreilles branchées sur le monde et nous souhaitons aussi rester un acteur engagé pour le soutien humanitaire, un acteur engagé pour le soutien politique, notamment dans les enceintes multilatérales, pour toujours privilégier la capacité de résoudre par le dialogue les différends et les conflits. Et enfin, le troisième message que je souhaiterais partager avec vous, et c'est une conviction très très forte émanant de quelqu'un, votre serviteur, qui a eu l'occasion il y a plusieurs années d'assumer des responsabilités dans le développement comme ministre de la coopération internationale en Belgique. C'était il y a quelques années. Ma conviction, c'est que nous devons maintenant changer notre logiciel. Nous devons maintenant changer le paradigme. Et nous devons maintenant davantage avoir la culture de l'évaluation. Regarder les yeux dans les yeux ce qui se passe bien et pouvoir approfondir, accentuer lorsque des méthodes donnent lieu à des succès, mais pouvoir aussi corriger lorsque l'on se rend compte que les recettes du passé ne fonctionnent pas, en tout cas ne fonctionnent pas à la hauteur de nos attentes. Et changer le logiciel, c'est d'abord changer le logiciel dans nos têtes et dans nos cœurs. C'est cette conviction que le partenariat d'égal à égal ne peut pas être simplement un mot ou un élément de langage. Ça doit être un partenariat d'égal à égal empreint de sincérité, fondé sur l'intérêt mutuel et fondé aussi sur notre perception commune que le monde se transforme sous nos yeux. Le changement climatique ébranle tous nos repères. Nous mesurons bien qu'il n'est plus possible d'user et d'abuser des ressources naturelles à l'extrême parce que nous voyons bien que nous sommes au bout de ce modèle et cela emporte des conséquences. Ce qui autrefois était considéré comme un déchet est aujourd'hui une ressource. C'est le développement de l'économie circulaire. Et dans le même état d'esprit, la transformation digitale nous bouleverse et nous sommes en train de mesurer que sous nos yeux, le pétrole de demain est probablement la donnée digitale. Et il sera important pour nous collectivement de ne pas commettre les erreurs commises dans l'enceinte du changement climatique en ne martyrisant pas les données personnelles et en trouvant le chemin grâce à des valeurs partagées pour à la fois permettre l'innovation, permettre le développement, permettre le progrès grâce à la transformation digitale et aux ressources digitales, mais dans le même temps avoir cette vigilance de la dignité des personnes, de la vie privée, des droits fondamentaux, des libertés pour bâtir ce modèle commun au départ duquel nous pourrons tenter de progresser ensemble. Le nouveau paradigme, c'est bien sûr, c'est le sens de Global Gateway, miser sur des infrastructures durables, des infrastructures qui renforcent la résilience. Ce nouveau paradigme, c'est faire confiance au secteur privé, développer de nouveaux instruments financiers. Ça a été le sens de ce sommet il y a quelques mois à Bruxelles entre l'Union africaine et l'Union européenne. Nous avons pu dessiner les contours d'une approche différente, ambitieuse, nouvelle, réaliste également. Il nous appartiendra pas seulement de s'accorder sur une déclaration commune et généreuse, mais de le mettre en œuvre et de développer cette culture de l'évaluation régulière pour s'assurer que les mots sont suivis d'effets tangibles, ressentis par nos citoyens partout dans le monde et par nos populations. Ce nouveau paradigme, c'est aussi le sens de l'engagement de l'Union européenne pour continuer à travailler sur la restructuration des dettes qui accablent les pays africains, qui limitent et rétrécissent des marges de manœuvre. C'est le sens aussi de notre ambition d'être engagé avec le Fonds monétaire international pour faire en sorte que l'on puisse davantage réallouer les droits de tirage spéciaux. Et au-delà des progrès qui ont été réalisés, il y a certainement encore, de mon point de vue sur ce sujet, des pas additionnels qui vont être nécessaires. J'avais promis d'être bref, je veux me tenir à cette promesse et je viens à la conclusion avec cette pensée que je souhaite partager avec vous. C'est un homme empreint de sagesse et sa vie a marqué l'humanité, Desmond Tutu, qui indiquait avec des mots justes que le seul moyen d'être en sécurité, c'est d'être ensemble. Et il ajoutait que le seul moyen, en fin de compte, d'avoir de la prospérité, c'est d'être ensemble. Et finalement, être humain, c'est appartenir à cette même famille, c'est être ensemble, c'est prendre soin les uns des autres, prendre soin les uns des autres. C'est vraiment le vœu que je forme en ce lancement des journées du développement. Mobilisons nos intelligences collectives pour bâtir ensemble dans le respect dans le respect de nos histoires, dans le respect de nos traditions, mais aussi dans une volonté commune de bâtir un monde plus juste, plus solide et plus prospère. Merci à vous.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I would like now to invite Mr. Nana Akufo-Addo, President of the Republic of Ghana, to the stage, please.
Your Majesties, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I thank the President of the European Commission, Her Excellency Frau Ursula von der Leyen, for the invitation to be part of this year's European Development Days. It has been 2 years of virtual meetings since the outbreak of COVID-19, so it feels good to be able to meet again in person to chart a sustainable course for our collective future, particularly that of Europe and Africa. Although the initial response was somewhat flawed, the level of global cooperation witnessed in the fight against the ravages of COVID-19 demonstrates the importance of multilateralism as a progressive tool to finding solutions to the plethora of global issues. The theme chosen for this year's event, Global Gateway, Building Sustainable Partnership for a Connected World, is thus happily apt in view of the times. Excellencies, global efforts to help countries correct the devastation caused by the pandemic and also achieve the UN 2030 Sustainable Development Goals are coming up short. Finance and investment needs of developing countries have increased, as COVID-19 has not only reversed years of progress, but has also revealed critical gaps in infrastructure in areas such as healthcare and digital connectivity. Sadly, the prospects for us in the developing world, making up lost ground through inclusive and sustainable recovery efforts, have been further severely undermined in recent months by the consequences of the Russian invasion of Ukraine, which are having a negative impact on commodity and fuel prices, stoking a food crisis, and provoking financial market volatility. Though the bombs might be dropping on cities half a world away, they're hitting our pockets not only in Ghana and in Africa, but also in much of the developing world. Indeed, a recent United Nations report estimates that 70% of Africa's economies are at severe risk from the Russian war in Ukraine. The World Bank tells us that subsequent to the conflict, the number of poor people in sub-Saharan Africa would rise from 413 million to 463 million this year, an increase of 50 million persons. In the midst of this, 18 African economies have experienced credit downgrades, even when all economies are suffering adverse fallout from last year's pandemic. And we in Africa are also facing the risk of the so-called taper tantrums as investors exit our markets, thereby exacerbating the increasing cost of borrowing. At this moment, support for non-IMF program countries to alleviate the debt burden is limited. The initial facility, designed by the G20 countries to offer respite to economies with elevated debt challenges, the Debt Service Suspension Initiative, DSSI, has expired since December 2021 and has not been renewed. Beyond the DSSI, the G20 Common Framework promised a comprehensive solution to the debt issue. To date, the few countries that took on the associated risk by applying have yet to receive the much-needed relief. In these trying times, the amount of $650 billion United States dollar special drawing rights approved for the IMF in August 2021 was meant to provide significant relief. However, based on allocation principles, economies in Africa got a total of only 33 billion United States dollars, about 5%. Moreover, the promise to reallocate some 100 billion United States dollars of the SDR allocations to African economies, agreed to at the Paris summit in May 2019, has so far yielded about 36 billion United States dollars in pledges as of April 2022. Then there is the matter of the African risk premium, when African entities are borrowing from the market, which increases the cost of capital and which must be addressed, especially as Africa provides the highest return on investments obtainable anywhere and has a good record of debt repayment. Likewise, we must deal together with tax dodging and illegitimate commercial transactions by multinationals, which account for 60% of the annual 88 billion United States dollars of illicit financial flows from the African continent. In this regard, the recent pledge from the G7 countries to exact a new global minimum tax rate of 15% on multinationals, regardless of where they are based, is a step in the right direction, even if the rate is low. The combined effects of debt situation, rising interest rates, and rising cost of living are resulting in severe macroeconomic and financial instability. What is clear is that the ensuing damage cannot be cured so easily with the limited fiscal tools at our disposal and national policy adjustments. Excellencies, the long-standing relationship between Africa and Europe, founded on ties of blood, culture, geography, and history, should serve as a platform for enhanced cooperation between us. Indeed, no one needs to tell us that the issues of peace, progress, and prosperity in Africa and Europe are deeply intertwined, which presuppose that ensuring the development of Africa should be in our common interest. Now more than ever, strong partnership between Europe and Africa, reinforced political dialogue, and expanded cooperation in the fields of economic growth and international security are required. We have to work together to achieve our goals, including a fair, equitable process of energy transition, which recognizes that the entire African continent is responsible for less than 4% of global emissions, and which safeguards the prospects of Africa's development. It is for these reasons that the establishment of the 300 billion euro Global Gateway package by the European Union, which aims to boost public and private investment in the areas of infrastructure, energy, and green transition, digital transformation, growth and jobs, transport and human development over the next 7 years is very much welcomed. This package must be innovative in its approaches to infrastructure investments and financing, and should be characterized by demand-driven projects which deliver on African-defined priorities. I'm hopeful that over these 2 days, the series of high-level panel sessions and debates framed around the 5 key investment areas of Global Gateway, that is digital, climate and energy, transport, health, education and research, will produce outcomes that will prove beneficial in the successful implementation of infrastructural developments across Africa. In the next few years, we must be able to see tangible projects across Africa as proof of the fruits of the strategic partnership that exists between Europe and Africa. Excellent relations between Europe and Africa are essential to global security in this 21st century, which should lead us onto the path of shared progress and prosperity. Your Excellencies, I thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, now please welcome Mr. Mohamed Ould Ghazouani, President of the Islamic Republic of Mauritania.
Altesse royale, Majesté, Excellence Monsieur Charles Michel, le Président du Conseil européen, Excellences Mesdames et Messieurs les chefs d'État et de gouvernement, Mesdames et Messieurs, permettez-moi d'abord de remercier l'Union européenne en la personne de la présidente de sa commission, son Excellence Madame Ursula von der Leyen, pour l'aimable invitation qu'elle nous a adressée afin de prendre part à la 15e édition des Journées européennes du développement qui se tient sous le thème Global Gateway, construire des partenaires durables pour un monde connecté, tout comme la chaleur et la qualité de l'accueil. Excellences, Mesdames et Messieurs, les dramatiques conséquences de la Covid-19 ont fortement mis en lumière l'urgente nécessité de renforcer la résilience des chaînes d'approvisionnement et de relever les défis mondiaux liés au changement climatique, à la pauvreté, à l'insécurité et au déficit d'infrastructures, de gouvernance et d'inclusivité du développement. Défis que la guerre en Ukraine est venue fortement exacerber en perturbant les chaînes logistiques d'approvisionnement, occasionnant ainsi une très forte hausse des prix des denrées alimentaires et des produits énergétiques. En centrant son intervention sur le développement des liaisons intelligentes, propres et sûres dans les domaines du numérique, de l'énergie et des transports, tout comme sur le renforcement des systèmes de santé, d'éducation et de recherche, l'Union européenne, à travers Gateway, affirme résolument sa volonté de contribuer efficacement à relever tous ces défis. Ces priorités sont aussi celles du continent africain. Nous notons avec beaucoup d'espoir l'annonce faite de consacrer 150 milliards d'euros au volet africain de ce programme. Le Global Gateway, dans ses objectifs cibles, traduit une remarquable convergence des priorités entre la Mauritanie et l'Union européenne, lesquelles ont toujours été unies par des relations de coopération fortes, diversifiées, saines et constructives, qui cimentent le partage des valeurs communes et l'excellence des relations bilatérales avec tous les pays membres de l'Union. Je profite de cette occasion pour saluer ici l'appui que l'Union européenne n'a cessé d'apporter à mon pays et plus globalement aux pays du Sahel dans la lutte contre le terrorisme et pour le développement. Excellences, Mesdames et Messieurs, jouissant d'une excellente position stratégique, ouverte sur l'Europe et charnière entre le Maghreb et l'Afrique subsaharienne, la Mauritanie, en raison de son immense potentiel de ressources minières, énergétiques, halieutiques et agropastorales, ainsi que ses énormes besoins en infrastructures, en développement de la santé, de l'éducation et en renforcement de résilience économique et sociale, trouve dans le Global Gateway une opportunité de premier ordre et œuvrera résolument pour devenir un partenaire essentiel dans sa mise en œuvre. La Mauritanie, pays de paix et de stabilité, est un ami fiable de l'Union européenne. Elle a fait du développement du capital humain, de la lutte contre la pauvreté, la marginalisation et la précarité un important pilier de sa stratégie de développement national, consacrant à la santé, à l'éducation et à l'amélioration des conditions de vie des plus démunis une attention particulière et des moyens de plus en plus importants. Cependant, en fournissant d'énormes efforts pour améliorer les conditions de vie de nos citoyens les plus démunis, nous avons veillé à respecter les exigences d'une politique budgétaire responsable, tout comme nous avons œuvré à consolider l'ancrage de l'état de droit, des libertés individuelles et collectives et de la bonne gouvernance. En outre, mon pays s'est fortement engagé dans la lutte contre le changement climatique, la sécheresse et la désertification. Nous venons ainsi de réviser notre contribution nationale climat. Et bien que nos émissions de gaz à effet de serre soient très marginales, nous prévoyons de les réduire à l'horizon 2030 de 11% par rapport à 2018. Excellences, Mesdames et Messieurs, la Mauritanie s'est fixée comme ambition de se positionner en acteur important dans la transition énergétique, en augmentant son mix énergétique et en exploitant son potentiel d'énergie renouvelable. À cet égard, le lancement d'un ambitieux et important programme de développement de l'hydrogène vert pour offrir une source alternative et durable d'énergie propre constitue une importante opportunité de coopération avec l'Europe, renforcée davantage par notre proximité géographique. Parallèlement, nous avons adopté des orientations stratégiques axées sur le développement du numérique, auquel vient d'être récemment dédié un département ministériel à part entière. Les infrastructures et les secteurs productifs, le renforcement de notre secteur privé, la promotion des partenariats publics-privés, l'amélioration du climat des affaires en rendant notre code d'investissement de plus en plus attractif, la transformation en profondeur de certains secteurs clés comme l'agriculture, l'élevage et l'industrie. Mesdames et Messieurs, nous sommes conscients qu'en ces temps difficiles d'insécurité et de dérégulation des marchés, nous avons plus que jamais besoin de partenariats solides, ancrés dans les valeurs partagées pour transformer ces innombrables opportunités en outils de croissance et de réduction de pauvreté. Pour terminer, je voudrais saluer le leadership de leur Excellence, M. Charles Michel et de Ursula von der Leyen pour le lancement de cette importante initiative de Global Gateway et réaffirmer dans le même temps ma ferme volonté d'œuvrer à consolider et diversifier davantage les relations qui unissent mon pays, la Mauritanie, à l'Union européenne. Et je vous remercie.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Président. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm getting out of the way while we are cleaning up our stand. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like now to invite to join us here on stage Mr. José Maria Neves, President of the Republic of Cabo Verde.
Suas Majestades, Senhores Presidentes, Senhores Primeiros Ministros, Senhores Altos Dignatários das instituições da União Europeia, distintos participantes, minhas senhoras e meus senhores. Começo por felicitar a Comissão da União Europeia por esta louvável iniciativa que se repete anualmente e com o mesmo sucesso desde 2006. Os laços de Cabo Verde com a União Europeia e os seus Estados-membros remontam aos tempos da independência e foram se revelando essenciais para o desenvolvimento do meu país. São relações que foram crescendo e amadurecendo a ponto de ter atingido em 2007, com a parceria especial, um patamar qualitativamente diferente, graças ao reforço da credibilidade e da imagem internacional do país. Cabo Verde é um país africano comprometido com a promoção e defesa da paz, do Estado de Direito, da legalidade internacional e dos direitos humanos, que aposta no multilateralismo e na busca de soluções negociadas para as questões globais e os diferentes. É parte integrante de um continente que ainda não é um ator relevante na arena internacional e que tem que acelerar o passo e romper com as amarras e os constrangimentos existentes que limitam o seu processo de desenvolvimento para poder desempenhar um papel mais importante nesta nova ordem mundial em formação. A África dispõe de recursos abundantes, terras aráveis, população jovem, dinâmica e talentosa e uma diáspora cheia de competências. O continente tem instrumentos de ação, nomeadamente a Agenda 2063, que tem de ser cumprida, apesar da fragilidade das suas instituições e da diversidade e da complexidade dos contextos, se quiser afirmar-se como parceiro forte e credível da União Europeia e de outros espaços geopolíticos. Cabo Verde coloca as pessoas no centro de todas as suas preocupações. É um país de instituições sólidas, credíveis e alicerçadas na boa governança, na transparência e que visa o crescimento inclusivo e ambientalmente sustentável. Cabo Verde é um dos países mais fortemente atingidos pelas consequências da Covid-19 e está entre os mais afetados pelas alterações climáticas. Se a contribuição desses pequenos Estados na carbonização da economia é desprezível, os impactos sofridos são devastadores, desde o aumento da desertificação e da aridez, da degradação do solo e perda de biodiversidade, escassez dramática de chuvas e tempestades intensas. Por outro lado, as especificidades de Cabo Verde como pequeno Estado insular e os avultados custos de infraestruturação inerentes demandam por uma discriminação positiva com soluções diferenciadas e inclusivas, apelando para a possibilidade de se consagrar uma atenção particular a um pacote de investimento Global Gateway África-Europa para os pequenos Estados insulares em desenvolvimento, por um lado, e a adoção do índice de vulnerabilidade multidimensional como critério de acesso ao financiamento dos Objetivos de Desenvolvimento Sustentável, bem como medidas de facilitação do comércio e de alívio da dívida externa, por outro. Cabo Verde realça a importância da iniciativa relativa ao estabelecimento de parcerias diferenciadas da União Europeia com os países de rendimento médio no quadro desta nova abordagem desenvolvimentista da União e reitera o seu profundo interesse em participar ativamente nesta iniciativa. Realço igualmente a importância do reforço de ações conjuntas nos domínios da segurança e estabilidade, atendendo aos desafios securitários crescentes na região oeste africana, bem como no Golfo da Guiné. Reafirmo a importância do aprofundamento das relações econômico-comerciais entre Cabo Verde e a União Europeia, com destaque para o pilar da convergência técnica e normativa e a dinamização de ações nas áreas da economia azul, economia verde, digitalização, crescimento inclusivo e emprego, saúde e investigação. Sempre é possível inovar quando existe vontade política e confiança entre as partes. Muito obrigado.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Ladies and gentlemen, I now would like to give the floor to Ms. Sarah Kungogelwa Amadila, who's the Prime Minister of the Republic of Namibia.
Thank you very much, Director of Proceedings, Your Majesties, Your Excellencies, Prime Ministers, ladies and gentlemen. Namibia is pleased to participate in the 15th edition of the EU Development Days that seeks to strengthen partnerships at the international level for mutual benefit, as expressed through this year's theme, Global Gateway, the EU strategy to build sustainable and resilient connections in the world. I thank the EU Commission for the welcome and courtesies extended to me and my delegation since our arrival. Your Majesties, Your Excellencies, this edition of the EU Development Days comes after the 6th European Union-Africa Union Summit that was held in February this year, where the heads of states and government met to agree on a joint vision for our two unions in a renewed partnership. This renewed partnership addresses both the immediate opportunities and challenges we face, as well as the long-term possibilities offered by our partnership. One of the significant outcomes of that summit is the Global Gateway Africa-Europe Investment Package, which is part of the Global Gateway strategy with 150 billion euro investments by 2027. This platform in the next 2 days affords us an opportunity to continue our dialogue on this package by seeking greater and deeper understanding on the package, and to develop approaches and come up with solutions that would ensure that the package helped build more diversified, inclusive, sustainable, and resilient economies that are also human-centered in its approach. It is important that whatever we do, due consideration is given to the priorities and needs of African countries as well. We welcome the core aims of the package, which is to boost public and private investment that builds on existing initiatives and partnerships. Particular areas of interest to many of our countries would be investment in energy, including renewable hydrogen and digital infrastructure. We recognize the impact of climate change on our countries and economies and the need for a transition to sustainable sources of energy. As provided for in the outcome of the summit, we wish to reiterate the need for energy transition that is fair, just and equitable, taking into account specific and diverse orientations of our countries with regards to access to electricity. COVID-19 has had a devastating impact on the global economy. And while nation states were on a path of recovery following 2 years of the worst global pandemic in recent history, oil and food prices were on the upward trend since the beginning of 2022. Moreover, droughts, heat waves, floods, and other climatic conditions have ravaged countries over the last few years, further affecting the economic stability and recovery of nations. It is within this context that less than a month ago, His Excellency Dr. Hage Godfried Geingob, President of the Republic of Namibia, participated in the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland, where he showcased Namibia's innovative approach to kickstart Namibia's economic recovery by using its renewable energy potential to contribute to a global just energy transition. Namibia has set an ambitious goal to reduce carbon emissions by 91% by 2030. In this regard, investment in the green hydrogen economy is an imperative if we are going to achieve this ambition. Infrastructure is a key enabler in unlocking development, and in particular, the development of Namibia's green hydrogen industry. The Southern Corridor Development Initiative, which is a key output under our national development plans, consists of a portfolio of complementary projects and infrastructure in the southern region of Namibia. It maximizes the opportunity presented by green hydrogen and ammonia for the country. Preliminary market estimate indicates that the Karas region in southern Namibia stands to absorb potential foreign direct investment of $6 billion, produce 2 million tons of green ammonia, generate in excess of $800 million in revenue per annum, and house generation assets of 5 gigawatts with the capability to produce power at less than 2 US cents per kilowatts. Namibia has already signed several memoranda of understanding with some of our European partners, being Germany, Netherlands, and Belgium, for the production and distribution of green hydrogen to be produced at the coast of Namibia with solar and wind renewable energy sources. We are engaging in a similar dialogue with the European Union. Namibia's Ports Authority has set aside 350 hectares of land at the port of Walfish Bay for the allocation of green hydrogen-related industries. Furthermore, a preliminary analysis by the World Bank of the green hydrogen market and levelized cost of hydrogen shows Namibia could produce highly competitive green ammonia. However, with little national demand, exports will be key to our green hydrogen strategy. The global ammonia market today is 180 million metric tons, driven by fertilizers and mining explosives production. The global market is expected to grow to over 500 million metric tons by 2050, driven by marine shipping and power systems aimed at decarbonization, especially by major developed economies with net zero policies by 2050. Your Majesties, Your Excellencies, Prime Ministers, Namibia's vast potential to generate renewable energy utilizing existing infrastructure and with investments in new infrastructure is driving the diversification of our economy. The green hydrogen proposition will make it one of the most competitive countries in the world to produce renewable hydrogen. As we seek to continue on our developmental path, we are improving our policy environment for investment, including undertaking the necessary policy reforms that would make it easier to invest. We are a politically stable country with the necessary systems in place to do business. We are committed to transparency and work tirelessly to promote our country as a viable investment destination by offering opportunities for investment through public-private partnership and foreign direct investment. In this statement, I highlighted a number of issues that are important for our country, such as the impact of COVID-19, human development, economic recovery in a post-COVID world, and sustainable energy production and transition. We are hopeful that the Africa-Europe investment package, with due consideration to the priorities and needs of countries such as ours on the African continent, will support our developmental ambitions as we seek to industrialize. I thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Madam Prime Minister. Ladies and gentlemen, I have now the pleasure of welcoming Mr. John Briceño, Prime Minister of Belize.
Her Majesty the Queen of Belgium, President of the European Commission, colleague heads of state and government, distinguished representatives, ladies and gentlemen, we meet in beautiful Brussels at a decisive moment. Not only is the world in the recovery stages of the global pandemic, but we are also witnessing a catastrophic invasion by Russia of Ukraine, whose impact has spread far beyond their borders, indeed far beyond this continent. Today, our small nations in the Caribbean, including Belize, are grappling with high inflation rates, unsustainable debt, increasing poverty, food and energy insecurity, and climate change, among other major external factors hindering the development of our nations. For example, in Belize, when my administration took office in November 2020, Belize's debt to GDP ratio stood at an alarming 133%. Unemployment stood at 30%, and the poverty rate was estimated at about 60%. Immediately, my government proceeded with our multi-year recovery and transformational framework called Plan Belize. This set the foundation for our medium-term development strategy, which allowed us to re-establish macroeconomic order and stimulate investments in several key sectors over the next 5 years. Plan Belize has already started to bear good fruit. Last November, we successfully converted an unsustainable private debt by paying it off and converting it into a blue bond that will assist us with our marine conservation efforts while helping us to achieve debt sustainability. This transaction alone decreased debt to GDP by an estimated 12%, set aside almost $4 million annually for marine conservation, and set up a marine conservation trust fund that will be worth almost $100 million by 2040. Belize, like other Caribbean nations, will continue to value relationships with our development partners like the European Union and its member states, who have been some of our closest and most committed partners. Historically, we have used EU funds to improve the livelihoods of the Belizean people through three main instruments: the European Development Fund, accompanying measures for sugar, and the accompanying measures for bananas. Now we are turning a new page in the development partnership under the EU's NDIC Global Europe instrument. The EU's contribution has helped with meaningful rural transformation through the development of small and micro enterprise infrastructure, through major investments that have driven our competitiveness on international markets and in areas of renewable energy. All initiatives that are helping us improve productivity and reducing poverty. Across the Caribbean, commitments by the EU have assisted our governments with green growth and sustainable socio-economic development, along with our efforts to enhance good governance and improve regional integration. Allow me a minute to express on behalf of the people of Belize and our neighbor Guatemala our sincere appreciation to the EU for its efforts at regional peace and security. Your commitment to the Culture of Peace program and in our efforts to find a peaceful and lasting resolution of the Guatemala's unfounded territorial claim to Belize territory is invaluable and continues to be important. Like you, we desire to live in peace. For this reason, we strongly condemn what is currently occurring in the Ukraine. We applaud measures by the EU to bolster their support for the Ukrainian people. Excellencies, Belize, like the rest of the Caribbean, is working towards meaningful, sustainable development and the economic transformation of our people. To this end, we will continue mobilizing resources and expertise that will help with the advancement of our people. We look forward to the support and engagement of our EU counterparts, especially as we seek to address global inflation, food security, and energy security. But any talk of the future would be deficient without addressing the very real threat that persists at this very moment. To truly embody the forum's global gateway strategy, we need to address global inflation and condemn the geopolitical tensions that threaten to diminish global connectivity and the investments we have made in driving innovation. As we come together at this 15th European Development Days Forum, let us ensure that our dialogue is fruitful, our outcomes effective, and our alliances enduring. The people we represent and the global community of which we are all a part of are counting on us to turn our words into action. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Prime Minister. And I would like to invite Mr. Anatole Collinet Makosso, Prime Minister of the Republic of Congo.
Sa Majesté la Reine de Belgique, Sa Majesté le Roi du Lesotho, Excellences, Messieurs les chefs d'État, Monsieur le Président du Conseil européen, Madame et Messieurs les Premiers ministres, chefs du gouvernement, distingués invités en vos rangs, grades et qualités, Mesdames et Messieurs, qu'il me soit permis, au nom de Monsieur le Président de la République, chef de l'État, Son Excellence Denis Sassou Nguesso, au nom du gouvernement et en mon nom propre, de vous remercier pour l'honneur qui m'est fait de compter parmi les invités à la 15e édition des Journées européennes de développement. Cela témoigne de l'excellence des relations de coopération entre le Congo et l'Union européenne. À vous, Madame la Présidente de la Commission, aux membres de la Commission et aux autorités gouvernementales du Royaume de Belgique, j'exprime ma profonde gratitude pour l'accueil chaleureux que vous avez bien voulu réserver à moi-même et à la délégation qui m'accompagne. Leurs Excellences, Messieurs les chefs d'État, Mesdames et Messieurs, la stratégie Global Gateway est un partenariat de type nouveau qui définit les contours du monde à venir, un monde plus juste, un monde plus solidaire, un monde plus uni. Je puis vous assurer que le gouvernement de la République du Congo souscrit à cet ambitieux programme en ce qu'il répond d'une part à la vision que le Congo a toujours eue de la coopération internationale et d'autre part aux objectifs stratégiques du projet de société de son Excellence Monsieur le Président Denis Sassou Nguesso intitulé « Ensemble poursuivons la marche » et formalisé dans notre plan national de développement 2022-2026 avec ses 6 axes prioritaires que sont l'agriculture, le numérique, le tourisme, l'immobilier, l'industrie et les zones économiques spéciales. La convergence d'objectifs entre notre plan national de développement et le programme Global Gateway va constituer, j'en suis convaincu, ce qui peut être considéré comme un co-développement exponentiel. Le financement des 343 projets de ce plan national de développement, dans le respect des normes environnementales, auxquelles il convient d'ajouter les projets identifiés dans le cadre de la Commission climat du bassin du Congo et du Fonds bleu pour le bassin du Congo, permettra à la République du Congo de profiter des richesses qui en résulteront pour investir dans le capital humain et assurer un développement social durable assis sur une transition énergétique, écologique et numérique et portée par une économie verte, résiliente et vertueuse, génératrice d'emplois. Mesdames et Messieurs, distingués invités, la nouvelle stratégie européenne de partenariat s'appuie sur des valeurs démocratiques, environnementales et sécuritaires que nous avons en partage. Valeurs qui ont parfois été mises à mal, au point de mettre souvent les États et les peuples dans un face-à-face duelliste aux conséquences incalculables pour l'humanité, dont la crise alimentaire suicidaire que nous connaissons actuellement. Il nous revient à nous tous, partenaires engagés dans cet ambitieux programme Global Gateway, de puiser dans notre passé commun davantage d'enseignements pour transcender avec davantage de sagesse ce face-à-face souvent conflictuel, duelliste et destructeur pour construire désormais un côte-à-côte consensuel, dualiste et prometteur. Ce New Deal à reconstruire, matérialisé par Global Gateway, nous indique à tous la voie à suivre et nous rappelle que l'Union européenne, comme d'ailleurs sa sœur, l'Union africaine, a été créée sur des valeurs visant à préserver la paix au sein de leurs continents respectifs, à renforcer la sécurité humaine, à promouvoir la coopération internationale. Sans avoir la prétention d'être des experts en humanité, permettez que nous puissions suggérer le suffrage de nous tourner tout entier vers l'avenir et de construire à partir de nos diverses contributions recueillies ici un édifice qui, plus jamais, ne tombera en ruine à cause d'une quelconque érosion morale. Ainsi, nous garantirons la paix à nos peuples, nous préserverons ensemble notre planète et assurerons de façon équitable la gestion de nos ressources dans une perspective durable et plus humaine. Ainsi, nous écrirons une nouvelle page de nos relations, une page qui ne laissera aucun espace aux incompréhensions intra- et intergénérationnelles, mais une page d'espoir et d'espérance partagée. Je vous remercie.
Merci, Monsieur le Premier ministre. Ladies and gentlemen, I would now like to invite you to welcome Mr. Aziz Akanouche, Head of Government of the Kingdom of Morocco.
Majesté la Reine des Belges, Majesté le Roi, les hôtes, Monsieur le Président du Conseil, Madame la Présidente de la Commission, Mesdames et Messieurs, les chefs d'État et de gouvernement, Excellences. Permettez-moi avant tout de vous dire mon réel plaisir de participer à vos côtés aujourd'hui aux travaux de ce sommet important. Les crises successives n'ont laissé au monde aucun répit. Une pandémie globale unique dans l'histoire, une inflation galopante des matières premières, une pression sans précédent sur les énergies et un réchauffement climatique qui promet des défis paradigmatiques. Plus que jamais, nouer des relations solides entre partenaires fiables est nécessaire pour tous. La prospérité des nations n'a jamais été aussi interdépendante. C'est dans ce contexte que l'Union européenne propose le Global Gateway, stratégie qui apporte une valeur ajoutée réelle et une réponse créative aux enjeux de la connectivité. Je veux ici rendre hommage à Madame Ursula von der Leyen, présidente de la Commission européenne, pour l'ambition et la vision qu'il démontre à travers ce plan stratégique. Favoriser l'émergence de ressources humaines bien formées, protégées par un système de santé qualitatif au sein des sociétés mieux connectées, par des infrastructures logistiques et digitales efficaces dans un monde pérenne, respectueux du climat et résolument engagé dans la transition énergétique. Global Gateway est une opportunité pour l'Union européenne, mais aussi et surtout pour ses partenaires et particulièrement l'Afrique. En alliant développement humain et développement des infrastructures, cette stratégie innovante se donne les moyens de contribuer à un développement intégré et à une connectivité bicontinentale. Avec plus de 63% de la population entièrement vaccinée, cependant nous ambitionnons d'aller encore plus loin. Et c'est dans ce cadre que, sous la vision éclairée de Sa Majesté le roi Mohammed VI, le Maroc a procédé au lancement de la construction d'une usine de vaccination destinée au Maroc et au continent africain. Le Maroc place la protection et l'épanouissement de ses citoyens en première ligne de ses priorités. Notre pays opère actuellement trois réformes de grande envergure, celle de la protection sociale, de la santé et de l'éducation, visant à accompagner, former et libérer les énergies de nos concitoyens pour tout le long de leur vie. Le Maroc œuvre par ailleurs pour assurer une connectivité renforcée entre nos continents. À cet égard, nous avons déjà édifié des infrastructures de premier plan. Tanger-Med est aujourd'hui un des ports les plus importants de transbordement africain et méditerranéen. Viennent s'ajouter à cela de nombreux nouveaux projets qui, combinés aux aéroports internationaux existants, permettront de connecter nos deux continents par voie aérienne, maritime, ferroviaire et routière. Ces échanges ne peuvent se faire sans un monde stable et durable. Or, cette stabilité est aujourd'hui menacée par le réchauffement climatique et les problèmes de prix d'approvisionnement en énergie. Grâce à la vision clairvoyante de Sa Majesté le Roi, le Maroc a pris ses responsabilités en étant pionnier sur les énergies renouvelables depuis plus de 15 ans. Notre pays est également en première ligne concernant les nouvelles technologies énergétiques comme le développement de l'hydrogène vert. Excellences, Mesdames et Messieurs, nous faisons face aux mêmes défis, toutes en ayant des réalités différentes, en luttant avec des moyens hétérogènes. Notre devoir et notre responsabilité est de tirer de ces différences une force et de faire de l'altérité une complémentarité. Je vous remercie.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le chef de gouvernement. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like now to invite on stage Mr. Werner Hoyer, the President of the European Investment Bank.
Thank you very much, and sorry for this theatrical input. At least I got your attention now. Majesties, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, it's a privilege, joy, and honor for me to be with you. Last year, I met many of the leaders that are here today with us, still with a lot of caution and distancing, but one sensed optimism and a feeling that the pandemic should be mitigated, maybe one day defeated, and some normality would return. None of us thought that Russia was planning a war with global consequences. We were quite rightly focused on addressing the fallout of the pandemic and the twin challenges of the green and digital transition. And crucially, how we could turn these challenges into opportunities. The world has changed since President Ursula von der Leyen first announced Global Gateway as a new strategic priority for the European Union. And the change was unfortunately not for the better. The relevance of the Global Gateway initiative has only increased as we need to enhance connections with our partners, those represented here today, and many others around the world. Deal with the challenges of food and energy security, double down on sustainable development goals in the face of an alarming trajectory, and protect the global vulnerable from the devastating consequences of climate change, COVID, and now war. The interventions from all sides so far have stressed the urgent need to accelerate transformational investment and at the same time to find adequate models to finance it. And there it is crucial that we do not believe that the solution can come exclusively from taxpayers' money. We need to mobilize the private sector to take a considerable part of the tab. The time is now. The conversations at EDDs need to lead us to tangible outcomes, reflecting common priorities in a true partnership based on mutual interest. At EIB, the EU Bank, we stand ready to deliver concrete, investment-based solutions for the challenges we are facing. My sense is that the war in Ukraine is the strongest possible argument to green our economies and to accelerate our independence from fossil fuels. This decade remains critical to address our planet's climate emergency. To achieve this, trillions of investments are required. And it is clear that the issue cannot be solved by a single actor alone. Last year at EIB, we dedicated more than 1/3 of our lending outside the European Union to climate action. In Africa, for example, together with our partners, we are supporting solar energy in Zambia, wind power and geothermal projects in Kenya, hydropower in Liberia, Ghana, and Madagascar, and off-grid solutions that will improve access to energy for household and micro-entrepreneurs. We need to continue on this path and multiply our efforts. As EIB, we stand ready to deliver concrete, investment-based solutions for the challenges we are facing. Now we are realizing what kind of unexpected success has been exceeded when we were overwhelmed by the COVID crisis just 2 years ago. And every scientist in the world would tell us, well, one day you need not only medication and diagnostics, you will need vaccination against this disease. But vaccine development takes 5 to 10 years. Well, only a few months later, we are supporting the deployment of mRNA technology in developing countries to face COVID and many other diseases. We need the same determination again. The case of hydrogen, the case of digitalization, take the case of education and skills and opportunities for women. This goes to the very heart of what the EU Bank is doing. As an engineering-driven bank, infrastructure projects have traditionally played an important part of what we do. And when it comes to energy, we are at the forefront of promoting new sustainable energy solutions globally. We are also the IFI with the largest exposure in the digital economy sector. Current portfolio accounts to 11.5 billion euros. And with our newly established financial arm, specialized arm for international partnerships, EIB Global, we now intend to take these areas to the next level and closer to our global partners. As the European Commission's key partner in delivering global gateways, we will step up Team Europe investments around the world. Let's work together on these ambitious aims. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hoyer. Ladies and gentlemen, I would now like to welcome on stage Ms. Odile Renaud-Bassot, President of the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development. That is making an entrance, definitely.
Your Majesties, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, I'm very happy to be here with you today to discuss Global Gateway, because connectivity is vital for development and for economic resilience. This is why we at the EBRD warmly welcome the EU's Global Gateway strategy. Our strategic priorities, green, equal and digital, are totally aligned. And we are a natural partner for this initiative. We strongly support the EU's guiding principles for investments, including providing sustainable quality infrastructure that promotes high social and environmental standards, and equal partnership and leveraging the private sector. Not only EBRD is part of the European development landscape and Team Europe, but developing the private sector is in our DNA. As it was very much said this morning, we are in extraordinary times with the war on Ukraine following the COVID pandemic. And this adds fresh urgency to the need to connect better. The economic damage is severe, both inside Ukraine, but also across other countries and regions which face supply chain disruption and worsening energy and food security. With our strong presence in Eastern Europe, Mediterranean countries, Caucasus, Central Asia, we can see firsthand the disruptions generated by the war. And we are stepping up our support to counterbalance these negative impacts. African and Middle Eastern countries are particularly vulnerable to the rising food and energy prices. And in our countries of operation in North Africa and the Near East, we are scaling up our response by giving priority to investments in agribusiness sector to help countries better manage food security. And on energy security, in line with the EU's recent Repower EU package, we focus on more energy efficiency, renewables and green hydrogen. And we are very proud to have 50% of our overall investment last year in the green sector. Central Asia is also directly impacted by the war on Ukraine, and there is an urgent need for reliable alternative connections with the world. Our study on sustainable transport corridors connecting Europe with Central Asia, conducted at the request of the Commission, is a natural contribution to the Global Gateway. It will pave the way for more transparent and sustainable investment opportunities. So what can the EBRD bring to the Global Gateway initiative? I think we can provide four key contributions. The first one is the fact that achieving integration by improving connectivity is a core element of our transition mandate. We have wide experience in this space, always with an objective to crowd in the private sector, link markets, foster decarbonization and achieve a just transition. Second, our strength lies in our ability to work in both the private and the public spheres, and to combine project work with support for policy reform, which has helping us overcoming market barriers and delivering more investments. One example I'm very proud of, for example, is the 6th of October dry port project in Egypt, which we finance. It's the first inland dry port in Egypt. It will function as an extended gateway to the deep sea ports, becoming an important investment in green logistics. And it's the first public-private partnership in Egypt over a decade, so big innovation. Third, things we can bring, cooperating with other institutions, which is vital. Connectivity is an area where the EBRD and European Development Finance Institution and the EIB, we have jointly invested in the past and will continue to explore opportunities to enhance collaboration. And of course, we have a long track record of working with the Commission on transport and energy networks, for example, in the Western Balkans, or promoting greener energy in Central Asia. And I would like to take this opportunity to express our support for this collaboration. Fourth, digital is another EBRD strategic priority. And digital connectivity plays a vital role in enabling the development of the broader digital economy in our countries of operation. Let me just allow to say a few words on Ukraine, because we are today, there is another event, Tech for Ukraine, EU pledging event in Toulouse, and to support development of tech companies in Ukraine. And more broadly on Ukraine, we are working to provide urgent support to the country and neighboring countries to face the impact of the war. Our objective is to invest at least 1 billion this year on areas such as energy security, food security, vital infrastructure, trade finance, support for pharmaceutical companies. And there is a close link with the connectivity agenda, because our aim is to keep the real economy working through finance that can help keeping the light on, the trains running, gas in the heating system, and food in the fields and shops. And we will strongly support the reconstruction of the country with a priority to improve the interconnectedness of the Ukrainian networks with the EU. Our work in the last 30 years has taught us lessons that can also apply to designing and implementing the Global Gateway. And let me offer two key lessons. The first one is the importance of flexibility, providing a mix of instruments, guarantees, but also co-investment grants or grants for technical assistance to cover a wide range of needs and situations. Another lesson is the importance of ownership by the countries and partnership with global community. And the EU is very well equipped to work with partners in the beneficiary countries and at the global level with partners sharing its vision. Team Europe is a very important tool for this partnership, and that's why we are happy to participate to 25 Team Europe initiative, of which 17 will support the Global Gateway initiative in partner countries. Looking forward, I would like to share our long-term vision from an EBRD perspective for investing in sub-Saharan Africa too. Our governors agreed last month on the principle of a limited and incremental expansion into that region, and this will certainly, when times come, open new opportunities for new partnerships. For the EBRD, for now, the EBRD will continue to invest in changing lives across our region and to work with our friends in Ukraine and beyond to promote connectivity. Thank you very much.
Merci, Madame la Présidente. Ladies and gentlemen, the time has come to give the floor to the Commission to close the loop, and I therefore invite Ms. Joona Urpilainen, European Commissioner for International Partnerships.
Your Majesties, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being here with us today. I think we have just heard a number of inspiring remarks by leaders from all around the world. Leaders have really reminded us about the importance of achieving sustainable development goals. They have also underlined the need to work in a coordinated manner to address the looming global food crisis. And they have acknowledged the potential of Global Gateway strategy in addressing current global challenges. The European Development Days are one of the largest yearly events organized by the European Commission. I am delighted that we are once again able to meet in person. We come together to listen, to share and to engage. This year, as you have heard, we have chosen to discuss Global Gateway strategy, the EU strategy for building sustainable links worldwide. In the next 2 days, around 100 events will take place. They will allow us to go into the details of Global Gateway. We will definitely discuss geopolitics, how to finance this ambitious strategy, and most importantly, hear from our partners what Global Gateway means for their regions and their citizens. It is a very good program, and I wish you enjoy it. Thank you very much for your participation.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes our opening ceremony. We will resume in this particular studio at 12:25 with our next session. In the meantime, the rest of the program continues in parallel. Your Majesties, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for being with us this morning.